Amara, the stairs! Go quickly!
Open the door.
The people of Lagos had a saying that every child heard before they were old enough to understand its meaning. When the moon bleeds, lock your doors before midnight. Most people laughed at the old warning. They blamed it on village superstitions carried into the city by grandparents who refused to let go of ancient beliefs. Lagos had changed. The city had become a forest of concrete, glass towers, endless traffic, yellow buses, noisy markets, and bright billboards that never slept. Who still believed in spirits? Who still feared the moon? But the oldest people never looked at the sky when the moon turned red. They closed their curtains. They lit white candles. They whispered forgotten prayers in languages their own grandchildren no longer understood. Because they remembered. And memory could be more dangerous than fear. Nearly 300 years earlier, long before Lagos became the city millions knew today, the land where Idumota now stood was covered by thick forests stretching toward the lagoon. Travelers avoided those woods. Hunters disappeared there. Children who wandered too far returned speaking to invisible people. Some never returned at all. Deep inside those forests stood an enormous silk cotton tree. Its roots twisted through the earth like giant snakes. No bird ever perched on its branches. No animal slept beneath its shade. Even during the hottest afternoons, cold mists surrounded its trunk. The villagers called it the tree without shadow, because although sunlight touched every other tree, this one cast no shadow at all. The oldest knew why. Beneath its roots, something had been buried. Not treasure, not bones. Something much older. Something that had never truly died. It had no name that humans could pronounce. Those who tried often lost their voices forever. So the elders simply called it the sleeper. Legend claimed the sleeper arrived before human beings settled the land. It fed not on flesh, but on promises. Every oath broken, every betrayal, every lie spoken under the moon made it stronger. For centuries, it slept peacefully beneath the sacred tree until greed awakened it. One dry season, a powerful merchant named Chief Adeguri searched the forest for ivory and rare timber. He had wealth, he had wives, he had warriors, but none of it satisfied him. He wanted power that kings could never challenge. When an old wandering priest warned him never to dig beneath the silk cotton tree, he laughed. "No spirit frightens a rich man," he said. Before sunrise, his men began digging. The earth shook, birds vanished, the sky darkened, though no cloud appeared. Then they found it. A stone box, carved with symbols no living person recognized. The box was sealed with iron chains blacker than night. Each chain carried strange markings stained a deep crimson. The priest screamed, Do not open it. But greed hears only itself. Chief Adegori lifted his machete. One strike, the first chain broke. Another strike, the second shattered. When the final chain snapped, every sound in the forest disappeared. No wind, no insects, no breathing, nothing. Then, something whispered, not from outside, from inside every person's mind. Some dropped dead immediately. Others clawed at their own ears until blood poured onto the ground. The merchant smiled. He believed the voice was blessing him. He didn't realize it had already entered him. That night, the moon turned red for the first time in generations. By morning, the entire merchant compound had vanished. No buildings, no servants, no family. Only scorched earth remained. Yet, footprints surrounded the empty ground. Thousands of footprints, as if invisible people had walked away before sunrise. The surviving elders understood. The sleeper had awakened. They gathered the greatest spiritual guardians from nearby kingdoms. Priests, diviners, hunters, women known for speaking with ancestors. For 7 nights, they thought something no spear could pierce. People vanished. Entire families forgot their own names. Children spoke with voices older than the earth. The river itself turned black. On the 8th night, under another blood moon, the guardians made a terrible decision. The creature could not be destroyed. It could only be imprisoned again. But prison demanded payment. Not gold, not blood. A family. One bloodline, chosen forever. Every generation, when the moon turned red.
One descendant would become the keeper. The keeper would renew the covenant. If the ritual failed, the sleeper would awaken once more. The chosen family accepted, not because they wanted to, because no one else would. Their name was forgotten by history, hidden deliberately, protected, buried beneath time itself. Only one symbol remained. A tiny crescent moon marked behind the left shoulder of every first daughter born into the family. Generation after generation, the mark appeared. The covenant endured. The city grew. Villages became streets. Markets became forests. The sacred tree disappeared beneath concrete. People forgot. Governments changed. Empires rose and fell. The British came. The British left. Lagos became one of Africa's busiest cities. Cars replaced horses. Skyscrapers replaced shrines. Phones replaced storytellers. Yet beneath Idumota, the ancient prison remained, waiting, listening, dreaming. And somewhere in the crowded streets of modern Lagos, without knowing who she truly was, the next keeper stitched torn clothes inside a tiny tailoring shop. She worried about unpaid rent, about hungry customers, about electricity bills. She had no idea the blood moon was only 3 nights away. And destiny had finally remembered her name. Her name was Amara. Morning arrived in Lagos the way it always did, with noise. Before the sun had fully risen, the streets were already alive. The blaring horns of Danfo buses echoed through the humid air. Motorcycle riders squeezed through impossible gaps in traffic. Hawkers balanced trays of bread, fruit, and bottled water on their heads while shouting over one another. The city never truly slept. It simply changed shifts. Hidden among the crowded buildings of Idumota Market was a tailoring shop barely larger than a bedroom. Its faded wooden sign read, Amara Fashion and Alterations. The paint had peeled away years ago. One hinge on the door squeaked every time it opened. Inside, old sewing machines hummed from morning until night. For 28-year-old Amara Okoye, that sound had become the rhythm of survival. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich. Most weeks, she barely earned enough to pay rent. Still, she loved making clothes. Every stitch reminded her of her late mother. Her mother used to tell her, a good tailor doesn't only repair fabric, she repairs confidence. Amara smiled every time she remembered those words, even now, especially now. She adjusted the hem of a school uniform while the ancient standing fan pushed warm air around the tiny shop. The electricity had gone out again. It wasn't surprising. Nothing surprised Lagos anymore. Across the street, a mechanic argued with a customer. Nearby, a woman selling roasted corn laughed loudly enough for the entire block to hear. Life moved, always. Yet something felt wrong. Since waking that morning, Amara had noticed strange things. A dog stood outside her shop. It hadn't barked, hadn't moved. It simply stared, watching. Its yellow eyes never blinked. After nearly 10 minutes, it quietly walked away. Then came the birds, hundreds of them, flying in perfect circles above Idumota, never landing, never leaving, as though waiting for something. She shook the uneasy feeling away. Coincidences, nothing more. Around noon, her closest friend burst through the door carrying 2 steaming meat pies wrapped in newspaper. BC, Amara laughed. You nearly broke the door. BC grinned. If I knocked politely, you'd still be sewing. She handed Amara one of the pies. I know you've skipped breakfast again. Amara looked guilty. How do you always know? Because your face tells on you. The 2 women laughed. For a few precious minutes, life felt ordinary. They talked about customers who refused to pay, about rising food prices, about Lagos traffic, about dreams of opening a bigger fashion house someday. Then, BC suddenly became quiet. You look tired. I didn't sleep well. Nightmares? Amara hesitated. Yes. What happened? She lowered her voice. I keep dreaming about the ocean. BC frowned. You can't swim. I know. In the dream, I'm standing in black water. The moon is red. There are thousands of people standing behind me. They keep whispering the same thing. What do they say? Amara swallowed.
Come home. The shop suddenly felt colder. BC forced a smile. You've been watching too many horror films. I haven't. Then stop eating suya before bed. That made Amara laugh. The tension disappeared. Almost. After BC left, business slowed. Customers became fewer. Clouds gathered unexpectedly despite the dry weather. By 4 o'clock, darkness settled over the market. Not normal rain clouds, something heavier, something older. Street lights flickered on far earlier than usual. Even the traders noticed. One elderly woman crossed herself, another quietly packed her goods. A herbalist closed his stall without explanation. Fear spread through the market without anyone speaking its name. Then, an old man entered Amara's shop. She hadn't seen him walk in. One moment the doorway was empty, the next he stood inside. He wore spotless white robes despite the muddy streets. His walking stick looked older than any tree she'd ever seen. His beard reached the middle of his chest, but it was his eyes that unsettled her. They weren't clouded with age. They were clear, sharp, almost glowing. "Good evening," Amara said politely. "Can I help you?" The old man looked around the tiny shop. "No, I came to help you." She smiled awkwardly. "I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone else." "I never make that mistake." He stepped closer. Without asking permission, he gently touched the back of her left shoulder. Amara jumped. "What are you doing?" His expression changed instantly. The calm vanished. In its place, pure terror. "No," he whispered. "It cannot be." "What?" He stared directly into her eyes. "The mark." Amara froze. "What mark?" "The moon has chosen you." "I don't understand." "You soon will." He reached inside his robe and removed something wrapped in faded red cloth. It was an old necklace, a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. The metal looked impossibly ancient. "I have carried this for 42 years. He placed it on the sewing table. "It belongs to your family." "My family?" "Take it." "I can't." "You must." "I don't even know you." The old man sighed. "My name is Baba Salami, the last guardian." "The last?" He nodded slowly. "After tonight, there will be none." A strange silence filled the shop. Even the traffic outside seemed to disappear. Baba Salami leaned closer. "When the moon turns red, no matter what happens, no matter who calls your name, do not answer." Amara felt goosebumps rise across her arms. "What are you talking about?" "Because if you answer, they will know you remember." Before she could ask another question, every light in the building went out. Darkness swallowed the shop. Outside, people screamed, car horns blared, transformers exploded somewhere in the distance. For 3 long seconds, everything became pitch black. When the electricity returned, the old man was gone. The front door remained closed. The bell above it had never rung. It was as though he had simply vanished. Only the silver crescent necklace remained on the table. Amara picked it up with trembling hands. The metal was warm, almost alive. The moment her fingers closed around it, a violent pain shot through her shoulder. She gasped, dropping to her knees. Behind her left shoulder, beneath her blouse, a crescent-shaped birthmark she had carried since birth began to glow with a faint crimson light. Outside, high above the crowded streets of Lagos, the evening clouds slowly parted. For just a single heartbeat, the moon became visible. It wasn't full, not yet, but along one edge, a thin line of deep crimson had begun to spread. Far below the city, deep beneath the foundations of Idumota, behind walls of ancient stone no modern map had ever recorded, something opened its eyes, and for the first time in 300 years, it smiled. Amara did not remember how she locked her shop. Her hands moved automatically while her mind replayed the old man's warning. When the moon turns red, no matter who calls your name, do not answer. The word echoed over and over until they became louder than the traffic outside. She slipped the silver crescent pendant into her handbag and stepped into the crowded streets of Idumota. Ordinarily, the market buzzed with laughter well into the evening. Not tonight. Something had changed. Shopkeepers who usually argued over customers were closing early. Women hurried children home. Even the notorious pickpockets seemed to have disappeared. Fear drifted through the streets like invisible smoke. No one could explain it. Everyone could feel it. As Amara walked toward the bus stop, her phone rang. It was BC. She answered immediately. BC? Instead of her friend's cheerful voice, she heard only heavy breathing. BC? A long silence followed. Then, a whisper. Amara. I'm here, what's wrong? Come home. The voice sounded wrong. Too slow, too deep,
almost as though many people were speaking at once. BC, come home. The call ended. Amara stared at the screen. No missed signal, no network problem. She tried calling back. The phone rang. Then BC answered. Hello? BC, are you okay? I'm fine. You just called me. No, I didn't. You were whispering. I've been cooking since I left your shop. Amara looked around. The crowded street suddenly felt far too quiet. She forced herself to laugh. Maybe it was a bad connection. If you say so. See you tomorrow. Good night. The call ended. Amara's smile disappeared. If BC hadn't called, who had? She boarded a danfo heading toward her neighborhood on Lagos Island. The bus was unusually empty. Only 6 passengers sat inside. An elderly woman silently counted prayer beads. A tired office worker slept against the window. A young mother cradled a baby wrapped in blue cloth. The child opened its eyes and stared directly at Amara without blinking. The baby's lips slowly curled into a smile. Then, in a voice no infant should possess, it whispered, "Keep her." Amara froze. The baby's mother noticed nothing. She gently rocked the child. My son is such a quiet boy. Amara quickly looked away. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the conductor shouting for passengers. When she glanced back, the baby had fallen asleep. By the time she reached her apartment building, rain had begun to fall. Not heavy rain, a slow, cold drizzle, the kind that carried the scent of old earth. Her apartment sat on the 3rd floor of a weathered building overlooking a narrow street. It wasn't much. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a leaking bathroom ceiling. But it was home. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it. A framed photograph of her parents stood on a small wooden shelf. She picked it up. Her father had died when she was 12. Her mother passed away 6 years later after a long illness. Since then, Amara had been alone. Or so she believed. She wiped dust from the frame and smiled sadly. I wish you were here. The room answered with silence. Unable to shake the strange feeling, she searched through an old metal trunk containing the few things her mother had left behind. There were fabric samples, old measuring tapes, bundles of thread, receipts faded almost beyond recognition. Then, beneath a folded Ankara wrapper, she found a sealed envelope. On the front, written in her mother's handwriting, were 4 words. For Amara, only when called. Her breath caught. She had never seen the envelope before. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single letter. My dearest Amara, if you are reading this, then the blood moon has found you. I prayed every day that this moment would never come. I wanted you to have an ordinary life, but destiny is stubborn. You will have questions. Do not seek answers from strangers. Find Baba Salami. He will know what must be done. Trust no voice that calls you after sunset, even if it sounds like me, especially if it sounds like me. The covenant is real. The stories I told you as a child were never fairy tales. They were warnings. Forgive me for keeping the truth from you. I only wanted you to smile for as long as possible. Remember this. Fear feeds the darkness. Compassion weakens it. And love is the only chain it has never broken. I will always be with you.
Mother. A tear rolled down Amara's cheek. Her mother had known. All those years, she had known. Then, another realization struck. The letter had instructed her to find Baba Salami. But Baba Salami had vanished. Or worse, what if he was already dead? Suddenly,
3 loud knocks echoed from the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Amara wiped her eyes. It must be the landlord. She walked toward the door. Another knock, slower this time. She reached for the handle, then remembered the warning. No matter who calls your name. She hesitated. Who is it? No answer. Only silence. She looked through the peephole. No one. The hallway was empty. She frowned. Maybe children were playing. She turned away. Then, a familiar voice drifted through the wood. Amara. It was her mother's voice. Soft, gentle, exactly as she remembered it. My daughter. Amara's entire body froze. Tears filled her eyes. Open the door. She stumbled backward. No, please, I've missed you. Open the door. The voice sounded so real that every memory of childhood flooded back at once. Her mother's lullabies, her warm embrace, the smell of sewing fabric and lavender soap. For one impossible moment, she wanted to believe. Her hand slowly reached toward the lock. Then, she saw the letter lying open on the table. Especially if it sounds like me. Her breathing became rapid. No! The voice grew colder. Amara! I said no! The knocking stopped. Silence. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then something scraped slowly across the outside of the door, like long fingernails dragging through wood. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound moved downward until it reached the floor. Then, nothing. She waited another 10 minutes before daring to look through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. But carved into the wooden door, just below the handle, were 3 deep claw marks. Each groove had been cut through solid hardwood as though it were wet clay. No human hand could have done that. Across the city, beneath the ancient foundations of Idumota, the darkness stirred once more. Stone cracked. Dust drifted from ceilings untouched for centuries. A pair of glowing crimson eyes opened in the depths below. A voice, older than kingdoms, older than language itself, echoed through the underground chamber. The keeper has refused the first call. 100 unseen whispers answered in unison. What now? The ancient voice replied with quiet certainty. Then we send someone she cannot refuse. Far away, asleep in her apartment, Bisi suddenly sat upright in bed. Her eyes snapped open. They glowed the same deep crimson as the rising moon. And when she smiled, it was not Bisi who was smiling anymore. The first rays of sunlight crept through Amara's bedroom window. She had not slept. Every creak of the building sounded like footsteps. Every passing car made her flinch. The 3 claw marks on her apartment door were proof that the nightmare had not been a dream. She checked the hallway again before leaving for work. The marks were still there, deep, fresh. No neighbor seemed to notice them. The streets of Lagos were busy again, almost as if the previous evening had never happened. Conductors shouted destinations, street vendors laughed with customers, children hurried to school. Life had returned to normal. But Amara couldn't shake the feeling that something invisible was walking among the crowd, watching, waiting. When she reached her tailoring shop, she stopped in surprise. Someone was already standing outside. It was Bisi. She waved enthusiastically. "There you are." Amara smiled with relief and hurried over. "Bisi, I was worried about you." "Worried?" Bisi laughed. "I'm the one who should be worried. You disappeared after hanging up yesterday." "You really don't remember calling me?" Bisi frowned. "I told you, I never called." Amara studied her friend's face. Everything looked normal. The same bright smile, the same playful eyes, the same colorful Ankara dress she often wore. Maybe she really had imagined everything. Inside the shop, Bisi sat on the work table swinging her legs. "You look terrible," she joked. "I didn't sleep. I can see that." She reached into her handbag and produced 2 cups of hot coffee. "I brought breakfast."
Amara smiled. "You're a lifesaver." As she reached for the cup, something caught her attention. Bisi wasn't blinking. Not once. She simply stared, smiling without blinking. Amara's hand froze halfway. "Bisi, are you okay?" "Of course." Still no blink. The smile never changed. Then, the silver crescent pendant beneath Amara's blouse grew warm, very warm. It burned against her skin. She gasped. At that exact moment, Bisi blinked. Once, twice, then smiled normally. The strange expression disappeared. "What happened?" Bisi asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Amara forced a laugh. "I'm just tired." The morning passed quietly. Customers came and went. Business was surprisingly good. For a while, Amara almost convinced herself that fear had clouded her judgment. Then, an elderly woman entered the shop carrying a torn wrapper. She paused the moment she saw Amara. Her eyes widened. "You." Amara looked up. "Good afternoon, Mama." The old woman ignored the greeting. Instead, she stared at the silver pendant now visible around Amara's neck. "You are one of them." "I'm sorry?" The woman stepped backward. "No, no, no, no." She dropped the wrapper onto the floor. "You should not be here." Before Amara could speak again, the old woman hurried out of the shop, muttering prayers under her breath. Bisi laughed nervously. That was strange. Amara wasn't laughing. That evening, as they prepared to close the shop, heavy clouds covered the sky once more. The air became unnaturally cold. Then, every phone inside the market vibrated at the same time. Customers, traders, drivers, everyone checked their screens. No messages, no calls, just a black screen displaying one line of crimson text. A second later, every phone returned to normal. People looked around in confusion. Some laughed, others blamed hackers. Only Amara noticed something else. Every stray dog in the market had stopped moving. They were all staring in one direction, toward the old clock tower overlooking Idumota. Without warning, the tower bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. It hadn't worked in years. The sound echoed across the market like a funeral bell. An icy wind swept through the streets. The crowd fell silent. Then, a child pointed toward the sky. The moon. Even though it was still daylight, a faint crimson circle could already be seen behind the clouds. That night, Amara dreamed again. She stood beside black water, beneath a blood-red moon. This time she was not alone. A woman dressed in white stood with her back turned. Long silver hair flowed down her shoulders. "You finally came," the woman said. "Who are you?" The woman slowly turned. Amara gasped. She was looking at herself, only older. Her eyes glowed silver instead of brown.
I am every keeper who came before you. What is happening to me? The covenant is awakening. I don't want it. No keeper ever did. The silver-eyed woman raised one hand. The dark water rippled. Beneath the surface, thousands of faces stared upward. Men, women, children, all trapped beneath the water. They broke their promises, the keeper said softly. The sleeper fed on them. Can I stop it? You have one chance. How? Before the blood moon reaches its highest point, you must return the covenant stone to the place where it was broken. What covenant stone? Instead of answering, the silver-eyed woman pointed behind her. She turned. Far across the black water stood the outline of the ancient silk cotton tree from the old legends. Its roots stretched beneath a modern city, beneath Idumota. When she looked back, the silver-eyed woman had vanished. Amara awoke with a scream. Her bedroom was dark. The clock read 3:33 a.m. The silver pendant around her neck glowed faintly. Then a voice whispered beside her ear. Not frightening, not cruel, calm, urgent. Go to the old clock tower. She sat upright.
The room was empty. But this time, for the first time, she knew the voice was not trying to deceive her. It was trying to help. Somewhere else in Lagos, hidden beneath abandoned tunnels below Idumota, crimson eyes slowly opened once again. The sleeper smiled. The keeper begins to remember. And above the sleeping city, the moon grew a little redder. To keep the total story within your 45-minute YouTube target, this chapter is slightly faster paced and moves the story toward its climax. Amara left her apartment before dawn. The streets were unusually quiet. Even the usual chorus of bus conductors and street traders had not yet begun. The silver pendant rested against her chest, warm enough to remind her that the dream still mattered. The old clock tower stood at the edge of a Idumota market, its weathered face frozen at exactly 12 minutes past midnight. It had been broken for years. Yet, as Amara approached, the bell rang once. A deep, hollow sound rolled across the empty streets. Someone was waiting beneath the tower. It was not Baba Salami. It was an elderly woman wrapped in plain white cloth, leaning on a carved walking stick. "I've been expecting you," she said. "You know me?" "I knew your mother." Amara stopped. "My mother?" The woman nodded. "My name is Iya Alake. I was one of the guardians before Baba Salami." "I thought he was the last." "He was." "And now?" She looked directly into Amara's eyes. "You are." Without another word, Iya Alake led Amara through narrow alleys behind the market, past locked warehouses, past abandoned shops. Finally, they stopped beside a rusted metal door hidden behind stacks of broken wooden crates. The old woman pushed it open. A staircase disappeared into darkness. "No one remembers this place anymore," she said. "They built the market over it." Amara switched on her phone's flashlight. Stone steps stretched deep beneath the city. The air grew colder with every step. The sounds of Lagos slowly faded until only dripping water remained. At the bottom of the staircase lay ancient tunnels. Their walls were covered with faded carvings of crescent moons, rivers, and strange symbols. "This was once sacred ground," she whispered, "long before there were roads." She pointed ahead. The covenant was forged here. As they walked, Amara noticed hundreds of old handprints pressed into the stone walls. Some were large, some belonged to children. Who made these? The keepers. Every generation leaves a mark. Amara gently placed her hand against one of them. The pendant around her neck suddenly glowed. The tunnel shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. A section of the wall slowly slid aside. Behind it lay a hidden chamber. In the center stood a black stone altar. Resting upon it was a smooth, dark rock, no larger than a football. Silver symbols shimmered across its surface. The covenant stone, whispered Iyalake, the heart of the prison. Amara stepped closer. It looks alive. It is. The old woman lowered her head. When Chief Adegori broke the ancient seal, this stone absorbed the covenant that imprisoned the sleeper. Then why not destroy it? Because if the stone dies, so does the prison. Before Amara could answer, a slow clap echoed through the chamber. Clap, clap, clap. Both women turned. Someone stood at the tunnel entrance. It was Bisi. She smiled warmly. There you are. Amara frowned. Bisi? You left without telling me. Iyalake's expression darkened. No. Bisi laughed. Oh, I missed that look. Her smile widened unnaturally. You always recognize us eventually. Her voice deepened. It no longer sounded human. Her eyes glowed crimson. The temperature in the chamber dropped instantly. I am not your friend, the creature said. I am only wearing her face. The walls trembled. Dark mist poured from every tunnel. Shadows stretched across the floor like living snakes. The creature stepped forward. Give me the covenant stone. Amara stood her ground. No, you cannot stop what has already begun. I have to try. The creature sighed. Oh, I hoped you would choose the easy path. Its body twisted, bones cracked, its arms lengthened, its smile split impossibly wide. The face still looked like Bisi's, but everything else was wrong. Iyalake raised her walking stick. The carved symbols burst into white light. The creature hissed. You guardians never learn. The old woman struck the ground. A circle of light surrounded Amara and the stone. Take it, she shouted. Run. The creature lunged. Darkness exploded through the chamber. Amara grabbed the covenant stone. It was heavier than it looked. The moment she touched it, visions flooded her mind.
She saw every keeper before her. Dozens of women, across centuries, standing beneath blood-red moons, each one giving up her ordinary life to protect strangers who would never know their names. She understood now. The covenant had never been a curse. It had been a sacrifice. A scream echoed behind her. Amara turned. The creature had pierced Iyalake with one long, shadowy arm. The old guardian collapsed, still smiling. Go, she whispered. Finish what we could not. Her walking stick shattered into brilliant white light. The explosion threw the creature backward. The tunnels began collapsing. Stone cracked. Dust filled the air. Amara ran, carrying the covenant stone. Behind her, the ancient chamber disappeared beneath falling rock. She burst out into the market just as traders were opening their shops. To everyone else, nothing seemed unusual. People bargained over fabric, children laughed, bosses honked. No one noticed the dust covering Amara's clothes. No one noticed the ancient stone in her arms. No one noticed the crimson glow spreading across the morning sky. But high above Lagos, the moon was already half red. There was little time left. Somewhere beneath the ruined chamber, the sleeper's voice echoed through the darkness. The final night begins. And for the first time in 3 centuries, its prison had begun to crack. By sunset, Lagos no longer felt like the city Amara had known all her life. The air was still. Not a single bird crossed the sky. Even the lagoon seemed unnaturally calm, as though the water itself was waiting. Above the skyline, the moon climbed slowly into the heavens. Its pale silver surface was disappearing beneath a deep crimson shadow. The blood moon had begun. News spread quickly across the city. People gathered outside to take photographs. Children pointed excitedly toward the sky. Television stations called it a rare lunar eclipse. Astronomers explained the science. They smiled for the cameras. None of them noticed the fear in the eyes of the elderly people watching from their homes. Across Lagos, elderly men and women quietly closed their curtains. Candles were lit. Ancient prayers, almost forgotten by time, were whispered once again. They remembered, even if they did not know why. Amara sat alone inside her tailoring shop. The covenant stone rested on the table before her. Her silver pendant glowed steadily around her neck. For the first time since this nightmare began, the whispers had stopped. The silence frightened her more. She unfolded her mother's letter one last time. Her eyes lingered on a single sentence. Love is the only chain it has never broken. She repeated the words aloud. What does that mean? A familiar voice answered from behind her. It means hatred created the prison. She turned. Baba Salami stood in the doorway. He looked weaker than before. His white robes were torn and faint light shone through parts of his body. I thought you were dead. He smiled gently. I am. Amara stared in disbelief. What? My body died beneath the tunnels. My duty did not. You're a spirit? The covenant allows every guardian one final night, and mine is almost over. Baba Salami walked slowly to the covenant stone. It has awakened. Can it still stop the sleeper? Yes, but not here. He pointed toward the heart of Idumota market. There is a place beneath the old market square, the place where Chief Adegori broke the seal 3 centuries ago. The stone must be returned there before the moon reaches its highest point. And if I fail? The old guardian was silent for several seconds. Then he answered honestly, the sleeper will rise. And everyone in Lagos? It will feed on fear until nothing remains of the city except empty bodies and forgotten names. A loud crash interrupted them. Outside, people screamed. Amara rushed to the doorway. The market was in chaos. Street lights exploded one after another. Windows shattered without warning. Dogs howled. The ground trembled. Then came the whispers. Thousands of voices, all speaking together. Remember, remember, remember. Some covered their ears. Others dropped to their knees. A few simply stood motionless, staring at the blood moon. Then Amara saw her, Bisi. She stood alone in the center of the street. Her head was lowered. She wasn't moving. Amara ran toward her. Bisi? Baba Salami shouted behind her. No! But she was already crossing the road. As Amara reached her friend, Bisi slowly lifted her head. Her eyes were normal, not crimson, brown, filled with tears. Amara? Her voice shook.
Help me. It's okay. I'm here. Bisi grabbed Amara's arm. I can't control it. What do you mean? It keeps coming back. Her breathing became uneven. I hear it inside my head. It says... She suddenly stopped. Her body stiffened. Then she smiled. Not Bisi's smile. The creature's. You are compassionate, it said. That has always been the weakness of your bloodline. The crimson eyes returned. Dark mist poured from her mouth. I only needed you close enough. shadowy tendril shot toward the covenant stone. Amara barely managed to pull it away. The creature laughed. You cannot save both the city and your friend. The shadows wrapped around BC like living ropes. She screamed. For one heartbreaking moment, Amara saw the real BC fighting from within. Don't let it win, BC cried. No matter what happens, finish this. The creature forced her mouth shut. Its laughter echoed across the market. You see, love makes you hesitate, and hesitation is enough. The blood moon turned almost completely red. Only a thin silver edge remained. Baba Salami appeared beside Amara. There isn't much time. I can't leave her. If you stay, you lose everything. Amara looked at Bisi, her best friend, the only family she had left. Then she remembered every keeper whose memory she had seen inside the Covenant Stone. Each had faced the same choice: protect one life or protect thousands. Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry. Bisi smiled weakly. This time, it was truly her. You already know what I would choose. Amara nodded. With trembling hands, she lifted the covenant stone and ran toward the center of Idumota market. Behind her, the creature screamed with rage. The shadows abandoned Bisi and surged after Amara instead. The chase had begun. The streets twisted unnaturally. Buildings seemed to shift. Dark figures emerged from alleyways. They wore clothing from different centuries, former victims of the sleeper. Each one whispered the same words: stay, stay with us. Amara refused to stop. The pendant burned brighter with every step. As she reached the old market square, the ground suddenly cracked open. Ancient stone stairs emerged from beneath the pavement. Hidden for 300 years, the final path had revealed itself. Baba Salami's fading voice echoed behind her. The covenant remembers. The choice is yours. Amara took one deep breath, clutched the covenant stone tightly against her chest, and descended into the darkness beneath Idumota, knowing that only one would return. The stone staircase spiraled deep beneath Idumota. Every step echoed through the darkness. Above her, the sounds of Lagos slowly disappeared. No traffic, no voices, no horns, only silence. The deeper Amara descended, the older the air became. The walls were no longer carved stone. They were the massive roots of an ancient silk cotton tree, turned black with age. The legendary tree without shadow. It had never truly disappeared. The city had simply been built on top of it. Its roots still held the ancient prison together. At the bottom of the staircase lay a vast underground chamber. It was larger than a football stadium. The ceiling vanished into darkness. Thousands of white candles floated in the air without melting. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by black water. There was only one bridge leading across, and waiting on the platform was the sleeper. It did not have one form. Every second it changed. An old man, a young woman, a child, a soldier, a king. Faces flowed across its body like reflections on disturbed water. Its eyes remained the same, two endless pools of crimson light. So, the creature said, the final keeper. Its voice sounded like hundreds of people speaking together. I expected someone stronger. Amara tightened her grip on the covenant stone. I didn't come to fight you. The creature smiled. Good, because you cannot. The creature stretched out one hand. The black water began to move. Images appeared across its surface. Amara saw herself, older, successful. Her own fashion house, television interviews, magazine covers, a husband, children laughing around a dinner table. Everything she had ever dreamed of. I can give you this. The sleeper's voice was calm. All of it. No more poverty. No more loneliness. No more sacrifice. The images felt real, painfully real. You only have to walk away. Amara closed her eyes. For a brief moment, she wanted to believe. She wanted the ordinary life her mother had hoped she would have. Then she remembered something. Her mother's smile, Bisi's courage, Baba Salami, Iyalake, every keeper before her. None of them had chosen this path, but they had walked it anyway. She opened her eyes. My mother once told me, a good tailor doesn't only repair fabric, she repairs what has been torn. She lifted the covenant stone, and today I'm here to repair what was broken. The sleeper's expression darkened. You still don't understand. I was never your enemy. I exist because humans lie, because they betray, because they hate. I feed on what they create. If I disappear, they will simply create another monster. Amara hesitated. The darkness had always come from human choices, not from magic, not from the moon, from fear, from greed, from broken promises. The silver pendant around her neck suddenly became brilliantly bright. A warm voice whispered beside her, her mother's voice, not the false imitation from before, the real one. Then don't destroy it. Change the covenant. Amara understood. The prison had been built on fear. Fear demanded sacrifice. Fear demanded another keeper every generation. But love asks for something else. She stepped onto the center of the platform. The covenant stone floated gently from her hands. Its silver markings began to glow. The sleeper lunged. Darkness rushed toward her like a tidal wave. Amara did not run. Instead, she placed one hand over the pendant, the other over the stone. I release every keeper, she whispered. I end the covenant. The chamber shook violently. The sleeper screamed, You cannot. The prison will fall. No, Amara answered calmly. It will become something new. The covenant stone shattered into thousands of pieces. Instead of darkness, light burst from within. Warm, golden, gentle. It spread through every root of the ancient tree. The black water became clear. The crimson glow from the chamber vanished. One by one, the countless faces trapped within the sleeper emerged. Men, women, children, generations of lost souls, no longer afraid, no longer imprisoned. They smiled, then faded into streams of light that drifted upward toward the surface. The sleeper began to shrink, its monstrous shape dissolved, until only one frightened figure remained. A young boy, no older than 10, crying. What happened? Amara knelt before him. The boy looked terrified. I don't want to be alone. She finally understood. The sleeper had never been born evil. It had become what centuries of fear had made it. She gently embraced the child. You don't have to be anymore. The boy closed his eyes. His body dissolved into soft white light. Then he was gone. The underground chamber became silent. The ancient roots slowly crumbled into dust. The prison was ending, not because it had been destroyed, because it was no longer needed. Far above, the blood moon began to fade. The crimson shadow slowly disappeared. Silver returned to its surface. Across Lagos, the strange whispers stopped. People looked around in confusion. Dogs lay peacefully on the sidewalks. Children laughed again. Without understanding why, everyone suddenly felt lighter, as though a terrible burden had quietly lifted from the city. Amara climbed back to the surface just before sunrise. The market was empty. Broken stalls littered the streets, but the city still stood. Bisi sat on the pavement waiting for her. The moment she saw Amara, she ran forward and embraced her. Neither of them spoke. They simply cried. The nightmare was over. Behind them, Baba Salami appeared one final time. His white robes shone like the morning sun. You have done what none of us imagined. Amara smiled. I only finished what all of you began. The old guardian nodded proudly. Then, with the first rays of dawn, he faded into light. Gone. At peace. 1 year passed. Idumota market was busier than ever. Amara's tailoring shop had changed. The faded sign had been replaced. More sewing machines filled the room. Young apprentices learnt the craft she loved. Bisi had become her business partner. Together, they built the future they once only dreamed about. Sometimes, tourists asked why an old silk cotton sapling had been planted beside the market square. Nobody knew. They only said it brought peace. Amara never corrected them. Around her neck, she no longer wore the silver pendant. It had become an ordinary piece of silver. Its magic was gone, its purpose fulfilled. Some evenings, after closing the shop, she looked up at the moon. It was always silver now, beautiful, quiet, free. And somewhere beneath the roots of the young tree, no monster slept, only memories and a promise that would never again need to be kept, because the blood moon over Idumota had finally become nothing more than a story whispered by grandparents on peaceful Lagos nights to remind every generation that fear can imprison people, but compassion can set them free. The end.